Jen, it must seem like Groundhog's Day for you. Like, here we go again, because you were covering so much of this last year. I'm curious, have any of the protesters said to you that this will be just the beginning of what's to come?
Some people have said that, and it's true. I think a lot of people were saying that, and a lot of people in downtown Montreal I was talking to a little bit earlier along the route were saying exactly that it is Groundhog Day, and that they are seeing this all over again. They had hoped that it would be the end. Many of them had. The students say that this is not the end, that they were hoping to have more of a chance to talk to the government. Now, at that education summit, there was one of the big groups that boycotted that particular summit because they said what they wanted to do was to talk about free tuition, not necessarily that they would not they would just not accept anything else at that particular moment. They said what we wanted to do was talk about it, and this was off the table. So they're saying there's still quite a bit of anger out there about that. Not necessarily that all of them want free tuition, but they believe that this small hike, this hike that the government has brought in, however small, is not acceptable. So we'll have to see. They're not talking about, another Maple Spring, as some people have called the demonstrations last year. They said we'll have to see how this turns out. And I guess that the big question will be whether there's an appetite on the part of all students, of enough students to take to the streets again, and just how much support they will get from the population.
It's interesting as well, Jen, because we're hearing 5,000 to 10,000 protesters in and around Montreal where you are. Some of them are saying they feel almost a double betrayal. On the one hand, they felt betrayed by Jean Charest and his Liberal government last year. The PQ campaigned on being more sympathetic. Now the PQ is in power. They too are moving forward with some modest increases, and students feeling betrayed again.
Absolutely. Some students were saying that they felt as though there would be more, there would be changes under the Parti Québécois, although it was clear in the last stretch of that election that though the Parti Québécois had aligned quite closely with the students in the early going, you remember that all of them were wearing the red square on their lapels throughout for several weeks, several months, in support of the student movement. There was a bit of a backing away in the last stretch of the election to say that, well, talking about the fact that they may not be bringing in what they say would be a tuition hike, but rather a bit of an increase in indexation to inflation, just to reflect the fact that the cost of living does go up. And this was a disappointment to students who felt as though they had an ally in the Parti Québécois, and now feel as though there is that is not the party that will help them, and we'll have to see just how this is perceived in the population, because, of course, the situation for the Parti Québécois is a tough one. It is not. It has a minority. It is not a majority in power. So whether they get the support of students may be important as it proceeds.
Jen, we know that this more radical group, ASSE, the ones that want completely free tuition, they had said that they were going to have this protest after the education summit. But do you have any kind of idea or any kind of sense from the people that you're talking to if they're mainly from that group or now from other groups because they're upset that these tuition hikes were implemented as of yesterday?
There are both in the crowd. I believe that most of the people were people who had planned on being here from the early going, people who felt that everything had been decided before the summit was even held, that it was a PR exercise and that nothing would get done and that the students would walk away with little win. So that is a big portion of the crowd here, although there are those other people, those people who said that they knew that the Parti Québécois had been talking about a modest hike, but that it was a done deal, that it became a done deal last night, and today is something that is very disappointing to them, and they're hoping that perhaps taking to the streets will make a difference once again, that they'd be able to make the government back down. So you have both of those factions here in the crowd.
Thanks, Jen. Geneviève Beauchemin with CTV News.